Hey guys, welcome back to another art video. So I finally got my Caran oil pastels and I'm really excited to open it up and start using them. So let's just start the unboxing. Alright, so there's a bag in here. Oh, okay, so looks like the seller used bags instead of bubble wrap, which is okay. And there doesn't seem to be anything else in here. Alright, so looks like I got a lot of reusable bags here. It's just bag after bag, it looks like. Okay, now I'm starting to see some pastels. Okay, so this is the full set of Caran Neopastel oil pastels. Ooh, they look just like candy. Okay, and how do you... Okay, so this is a complete tray, and then here's the second complete tray. And I think there's supposed to be some sort of foam to go on the top part too. Okay, it's at the very top. But yeah, actually it has the exact same smell as my crayons do, so I'm thinking that's probably just like an oil pastel smell. But so it sort of smells like crayons, but not that intense. So it isn't as unpleasant as my soft pastel, because soft pastels have like a dusty kind of smell. It smells like you're in a room full of dust every time you use them. So that kind of irritates me, but these don't smell that bad. They also feel a lot creamier, so I'm guessing they should lay on a whole lot better than my crayons. But I shall try them out because I don't want to make the same mistake as I did with the crayons, where I thought they weren't dried out, but they almost like half of them were dried out. There's 3 iridescent colors, which is interesting. I've never seen an iridescent oil pastel, so I'm not sure how to use these. But I'm pretty sure I could think of something. And another thing I'm worried about is they only gave 1 white oil pastel, and usually, like, no matter what media you're using, if it's paints, oil pastel, regular pastel, the white is always the first to finish because you always mix it with different colors to make them lighter. And also the black is sort of the second to finish because, can you see the black? It's right down here. It's the second to finish because you keep mixing it with other colors to make it darker. So I really wish they gave like a couple more whites and a couple more blacks instead of these iridescent colors. And I really don't think I would be enjoying using those too much. But let's bring out some paper to try these out. Alright, so for the test I brought out 4 different kinds of papers. The first one is Canson mi-teintes. The second one is just regular Fabriano sketchbook paper. The third one is my student grade gray watercolor paper that I usually use for my oil pastel work, although I must admit it's not the best. And the fourth one is Fabriano Roma paper. So I'm gonna bring out the white first because I really want to test out the opacity. Wow, it has very, very bright opacity. And it's also very creamy. It feels like I'm working with like frosting or something. It was awesome. And just to give you a comparison, I have my older oil pastels. So here's a crayons. I'm gonna put it right next to it. You can see there's a little bit of a difference. It's a little bit more intense than the crayons, and then my cheapest one is the dullest of the white colors. And you can see this the best on the darkest papers. You can see how the cheapest oil pastel is very dull compared to the Caran oil pastel. So now let's test out the blendability of these colors. Let me choose out a few colors that would blend well. Okay, let's start with the blues. So I'm going to start with a very dark navy blue. And I'm going to transition into an aqua. Ooh, and you can definitely see that really intense color on this black paper. It looks amazing. Alright, and then let's transition into a lighter aqua. Actually, that's kind of really similar to the last color I chose. Let me choose a yellow instead. This yellow isn't that intense. You can kind of see that it's not that opaque. Let me choose this lemon yellow. No, it's giving off the same kind of, like, it's not that intense. Interesting. This one is pretty intense though. It's like a cream color. Pale yellow, that's what it's called. But it feels amazing to like drag this pastel on the paper. You barely have to put any pressure on the pastel to get the pigment flowing. But Caran mi-teintes isn't my favorite. And that's because like there's a circly kind of texture that ends up showing when you're trying to drag the pastel and you're trying to blend the colors. So it's not my favorite, although this Fabriano paper, it's looking pretty good. And the gray paper, again, it's showing like some areas where there's like white spaces and you have to keep overlaying color in order to cover up those white spaces. I mentioned before that was a problem I was having, like no matter how many times I kept going over pastel, it was kind of hard to cover up all these spaces. The Roma paper is starting to show the same problem, so I think that it would still leave some white spaces, although it's pretty easy to cover up the area of the paper. I still think Fabriano wins out of all of these. The regular Fabriano sketchbook paper, which works really good with watercolors as well. And I've already done this before, but I could just do it again. It's the blend test for the other cheaper pastels that I have. Let me do it on top. So this is red, and you can see how horrible that went on the black paper. Like there's barely any pigment. But on the others it works fine because the paper isn't this dark where the opacity of the oil pastel matters. Now let's go to an orange. Again, very dull. Very, very dull. On the black paper only. And also the Roma paper, it's quite dull here too. This is actually my favorite color. It's a light peach. Alright, and you can see the difference between the really intense Caran oil pastels and the cheaper crayons. Alright, so now let's try out those iridescent colors because I mentioned that I wasn't sure how they would turn out. So here's a silver. They're actually very iridescent, like very metallic. I don't know if you can see the shine. There's quite a bit of shine. Okay, so here's gold. Wow, now that is gold. I'll try and see if the camera can capture the shine once I'm done. Here's a bronze. They're quite beautiful though. I usually hate metallics, like every time we got gel pens and I happened to get some metallic colors in that gel pen set, then I would always give them off to my sister because I hate metallic colors. But these look quite nice. Can you see the shine? Hold on. There's a bit of the shine. Interesting. I might try and see what I can do with that. Let me see how it looks if I mix white next to it. Oh, it almost wants to like not mix with the regular colors. Let's try here orange. It does mix a little bit, but then you're gonna have that contrast between not shining colors and then shining colors, or not reflective colors and then reflective colors. I still think it looks pretty cool. So that concludes my first impression of unboxing these 96 set of Caran oil pastels. I will be using this in a full-on illustration later on in my channel, and then I would be talking more in depth about using them and how it feels to blend colors and use them on different papers. But as of now, I did mention in my previous video that the nature of oil pastels is that they do smear because of the oil content in them. So it's nearly impossible to get 100% opacity on oil pastels. I've even seen like top brands like Sennelier and Holbein where they are used on dark paper, but it's not like 100% opaque because of the smearing. And like that happens when you blend them or when the color doesn't apply that well if you're not using that much pressure, so it all plays into part. But in general, I think these are top quality. I really love them, much more than any other oil pastels I've ever tried, and I'm hoping to use them real soon. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys in my next video.